Affordable housing is being stolen, and it's happening faster than you think. They are buying up affordable homes, jacking up the prices, and kicking people right out. And younger generations are the biggest target right now. Big corporations are turning mobile home parks into cash cows, and regular home buyers are left powerless. I even spoke to News Nation about this and how it's destroying first-time home ownership. But what wasn't covered is how this is set up as a trap from the minute you sign your name on the contract. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down exactly how they're stealing homes, even if you own the house outright, and what you can do to fight back before it's too late.
They have lived in their homes for years, but now nearly 50 families are being forced out of them.
During the pandemic, Wall Street investors started buying up more mobile homes than they ever did before. Between 2020 and 2021, they made over a quarter of all manufactured home purchases in the United States. Today, 15 private equity firms own over 1,500 manufactured home parks with nearly 324,000 lots. And in just 4 years, Wall Street investors expand their grip on mobile home parks by 25%, swallowing up about 75 more communities each year. If you look at rents for apartments today, they continue to rise. Traditional home ownership continues to rise. So owning a mobile home in a park is the most viable solution for them. But how they trap you is the fact that they know that you will never own the land underneath you. There is absolutely no legislation out there that is protecting people that live in manufactured home parks. They can set the rents to whatever they want. They can change the rent rate as many times as they want within that year. They can even change the rules of the park whenever they want to force eviction even faster. At any time, these corporate investors can put a pink slip right on your door and tell you that you're being evicted. They do not have to give you any notice. Sometimes it's only like 5 days.
To show us their eviction notices, giving them only weeks to pack up and leave their homes.
And you know how like in an apartment or a house that you're renting with a lease, you have protections and laws that state how many days you have before they can actually evict you from the house? With a mobile home park, that isn't the case. You could save for years to buy your dream home while living in a manufactured home park and still get kicked out because you had no control of the land that it sat on.
Legacy Communities LLC, the company at the center of the controversy, fees doubled for new residents and increased 8% for existing owners.
When these large hedge funds do take over the park, they claim that the increase in rent is to improve the park itself. But when it comes to anything with private equity, you know as well as I do, things never really get better.
And I think it's bull the way they're doing it.
In the letter, the park said it's shutting down because it needs a new sewer system.
Matter of fact, one of the largest hedge funds that owns over 266 mobile home parks just got themselves in the news for listing all these really ridiculous rules. Not only were they jacking up the rent, they were also tacking on additional fines for things like parked cars. They didn't want any more than 2 cars being parked at each lot. And the fine, if you did have more than 2 cars, between $450 to $500. And the payments had to be in cash.
That's shady.
And according to this article, this isn't the first time that they've mistreated the residents. At one Ohio property, residents say they were without water for days. Stackhouse used residents at North Carolina Mobile Home Park as a bargaining chip for zoning disputes, suggesting that they'll lose their homes if Stackhouse couldn't rezone part of the property. Of another Stackhouse-owned mobile home park, reported overages of utilities, failure to maintain common areas, racial discrimination, and rent increases multiple times a year. And that's just one private equity firm that is doing this. So what's the goal of these private equity firms to evict all these people? If they've been paying on time, paying for years, and it's been regular rent with very little maintenance on their end, there's got to be some reason, right? Well, it all comes down to what?
Corporate greed.
And what the third largest private equity firm loves to do when they evict these people is not get in new residents, because that happens too. What they really want to do is take out all those mobile homes, scrape the land, and put up apartment buildings. That way they will get even more rent.
The land under their affordable homes is worth more to the owners as a higher-priced housing project.
They claim this is helping solve the affordability crisis. In the meantime, though, a lot of these residents are left without a home, nowhere to go, and they can't afford to move the mobile home to another park. Brookfield is the third largest private equity firm, but they just sold off 160 mobile home parks at $1.6 billion. This is making them a lot of money. And as the affordability crisis grows in the United States and our younger generations are looking towards finding the most affordable housing options, these private equity firms are going to keep digging in. There's no regulation. There's no oversight. All the bills to address this have all sat on the floor. Politicians haven't voted on it yet. Sure, they create the bills, but you have to vote on them to make it work, right? Brookfield started buying these manufactured home parks all the way back in 2017. In March of that year, the firm purchased a portfolio of 135 properties from North Star Realty Finance. By the way, they're the number 2 private equity firm in the United States that's buying up the most mobile homes. So all they're doing is tossing it from one private equity firm to another. By the way, this is all backed up by government loans. Freddie Mac writes these.
Private equity firms often purchase mobile home parks with the help of real estate investment trusts and pension funds, using a strategy that leverages capital and aims to increase profitability through various means, including rent increases and utility bill-backs. They also utilize government-backed loans to acquire these parks.
These private equity firms that are stealing mobile home parks and kicking out residents are getting that money from our pensions and our 401ks and REITs, and that's how they get all this money. And on top of it all, once they have that money, now they have an asset that has been making money for years. If it's in the green, do you know what they start doing? They start borrowing against it. They start taking out loans against it. And then they start taking that money and reinvesting it into their private equity firm. That's what happened to Joann Fabrics, and they're doing it with mobile home parks. We're going to see more and more of these mobile home parks getting eaten up, especially as the economy turns. It's all about getting more money for their shareholders. And many of us don't realize what's even going on, especially when we're investing in our pension funds and our 401ks. We don't realize what the trickle-down effect is by investing that little bit of money. In the future, what happens to the residents that live in these mobile home parks.
They've known about this for several years, yet they're only giving us a 60-day notice.
And I know for some of you, you're going to say, well, you can just move your mobile home to somewhere else, especially if you own it. Well, let me just explain something. Moving a mobile home is not cheap.
One man feared being on camera, but explained the situation.
You can't relocate a 25-year-old trailer. The axle, everything underneath is too old. None of the companies around here are willing to do it.
And most people that live in mobile home parks are income restricted. And the cheapest I've seen a mobile home being able to move is about $3,000. But I've seen it as high as $15,000, like this news clip said.
For Frankie Schwarzberg, who lived across the street, it was also a difficult move, with her double wide damaged in the process.
I cannot live in my trailer. It's not properly put together. So I'm out $15,000 and a home.
The whole idea of mobile is a misnomer. And I know a lot of young people are saying, well, I'm not going to own a mobile home. I'm not going to live in a trailer. A lot of them are looking at RVs or they renovate buses. They even have looked at park model tiny homes. Ooh.
Some hipsters, because hipsters are always creative about a lot of things, they now are taking over old school buses. They're buying old, you remember the old yellow buses?
Yeah.
They're buying old yellow buses and turning those into their own mobile homes.
And they think that they're safe because they're easier to move. But those private equity firms are going into that area as well. I just posted about this on Facebook. And they were talking about how much has increased there. They're kicking them out. Doesn't matter if it's a park model, mobile home, tiny home, RV. These private equity firms are scooping them up. It may be easier if you're living in an RV or a bus, but it doesn't mean that you're not going to have this problem going down the road to the next park.
Imagine saying that you own a property and then somebody tells you that you don't. You paid off the house to be told, you don't have a place to live anymore.
For a lot of people, this is the very first home they'll ever buy. And they are very upset because the real estate agent, the lender, the salespeople did not warn them that this was a possibility. But the thing is that this is kind of a new phenomenon. And a lot of real estate agents, salespeople, and lenders have no idea this could possibly happen. And we really just started talking about this in the media over the last, since 2017. And by the time you find out about it, it's already too late.
She says she doesn't have anywhere to go and might end up homeless come September.
If you don't hate private equity yet, let me tell you another way that they completely suck. Let's just say they evict a bunch of residents and they're not planning on taking out all the mobile homes in the area. And the people that actually lived in those homes had it paid off, but they couldn't afford to move it. What happens then? Well, the private equity firm has a mobile home on that piece of property. If it happens to have a mortgage on it, that firm goes to the mortgage lender and buys out what's ever owed on it at a much reduced rate. Now they got a $60,000 mobile home for the cost of $6,000. And then they turn around and they put it back up for sale. and they do a rent to own. So part of that lot rent actually goes towards the ownership of that mobile home that they just got for $6,000. And the interest rate on that is absolutely mind-numbing. They're not doing this for the good of humanity or for the helping the affordability crisis. They're doing it to suck people dry. You don't get a conventional lease on this, and the lease terms can be terminated at any time. So all that money that you put down extra to own that doesn't mean that you're going to actually own it in the end. And let's just say you have been paying for the last 10 years, and then that private equity firm decides to sell it to another private equity firm. That doesn't mean they have to abide by the lease that you had. So all that extra money that you paid is right down the toilet, and they can evict you, and you own nothing. In some of these parks, they purposely make it so unlivable that at some point the state comes in and tells them they have to shut it down. And what do? They tell everybody they're evicted. And now they have a fresh piece of land and they have no headache left. All they have to do is scrape it.
You see, like everywhere else, the land under Utah mobile home parks is spiking in value. And the people who own the parks can make a lot more money by selling to a developer.
And start over and make apartment buildings where they could charge even more rent for a lot more residents. This isn't solving the affordability crisis. It's actually hurting more Americans.
She could not take her biggest investment with her and was forced to sell.
I'm definitely paying about 6 times more than what I was paying where I was at. And
6 times more.
As we dig ourselves even deeper into the affordability crisis in the United States, more and more younger people are going to be looking at manufactured mobile homes as an alternative to the traditional stick-built home. And who can blame them? They could save hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. Matter of fact, I did a video about this. If you bought a tiny home and bought it on a piece of land, you could actually even save over $100,000 over 10 years just by staying in a tiny home. You would save even more if you ended up buying a manufactured home on a piece of land. But that isn't feasible in many areas across the United States, especially in a lot of communities where they have the NIMBYs, where not in my backyard people. They shoot down anything tiny, like ADUs, which is another type of tiny home behind a house. And God forbid you have an RV in your driveway.
On Tuesday, it became official. Cedar Falls Mobile Home Park is now owned by those who live there.
We own it! We own it! So what do you do if you were planning on buying a mobile home and you don't want to live in a park because you don't want this to happen? Well, there's a couple things you can do. If you're not able to find a piece of land in your area, you may want to find a mobile home park that's considered a co-op. A co-op mobile home park is a resident-owned community. The people who live there actually own the land together. Instead of paying rent to a private company that can evict you or jack up the prices out of nowhere, the residents form a cooperative. Each resident owns a share of the co-op and has a real voice in how the park is run. Rules, rent, and improvements and everything. What makes a co-op even better? You have stable lot rent, you have control over the community, and then it becomes real home ownership because everybody has a vested interest in it. It's what true affordable housing used to be. And if you do decide to buy in a park like this, it'll be a lot easier for you to sell that in the future. Think of a co-op mobile home park as like being a part of a condo association. Just like in the condo association, everybody has a stake and votes on everything that needs to be done to the condos itself. Anytime the taxes or any kind of improvements need to be done, everything needs to be voted on. You don't get like a surprise bill in the mail. Everybody has a vested interest. Rock USA happens to be a company that works with a lot of mobile home parks, especially in the Northeast, and they help these parks get the financing and help with any kind of improvements that need to be done to the park before they can get financed. They walk you through the whole entire step in the process. And if you happen to live in a mobile home park now, and it's something that you want to explore, especially if the owners are planning on selling, contact Rock USA. If they are not able to do it in your specific state, I know they will direct you to a company that will help you. Affordable housing isn't lost. It's just being stolen right now. But now that we know the game that private equity is playing, we can fight back. It's your future. Don't let them take it from you. If you were planning on buying a mobile home in a park or renting a lot space in a mobile home park, let me know in the comments section below. To watch more videos about the affordability crisis in mobile homes, you're going to want to watch these videos right here. My name is Kristina Smallhorn, and I tell you all this because everybody deserves an affordable home.